Here on the Echo Ratings Eventing podcast, we have teamed up with our great friends at Bedmax, along with our very own Spike the Vet, to bring you lovely listeners some tip-top tips on keeping your horses happy and healthy in the stable environment. So, Spike, what have you got for us?
Well, this time, Nicole, is something that is really, really important, and it's something that people either are worried about or really should be worried about. And that's that risk of your horse testing positive for prohibited substances. And what's really exciting about Bedmax is that they are the first bedding company to be what's called NOPS accredited.
What is NOPS?
NOPS stands for naturally occurring prohibited substances. And those are things such as, a very easy, simple one would be morphine, which is found in poppy seeds. And it's the sort of substance that can become a contaminant in feeds or in bedding or in supplements and things like that. And there's a whole host of them. And companies will sign up to the NOPS accreditation that is run by BETA. And whereas a lot of feed companies and supplement companies follow this accreditation, Bedmax are the first brand for bedding to be in a position to be able to have this accreditation. And that's just such a wonderful peace of mind for horse owners to know that they're not going to get a nasty surprise after they've won their first novice and their horse has been blood tested afterwards and they find that they're positive for something. And that is excellent peace of mind and really, really important horsemanship as well.
I love that. That is so, so true, so important, and better safe than sorry. There you go, listeners. A tip-top tip for you. There'll be more coming soon.
Thanks, Nicole. More tip-top tips coming soon.
Welcome to the Echo Ratings Eventing podcast, and When Nicole Met. Now, listeners, today's guest is a man we've not had on the podcast before. I'm very much looking forward to this. Gubby Leech, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
It is our absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast because we hope that we're actually going to be talking about you even more in the next few months. There is a big one potentially on the horizon. First of all, though, let's chat about this season to date, because top 10 at Bramham in the 4-star long, tough 4-star long, finished on your dressage score, which not many people did at Bramham this year with Royal Harvest. First of all, how has your sort of spring campaign been leading up to the 2023 season? Basically, listeners, I was going to say I'm sure it was pretty wet and muddy like the rest of us, but other than the wet, other than the British weather, how's it been?
Yeah, to be honest with you, like I say, once you got past that very early wet stage, my preparation with Royal Harvest up to Bramham was really pleasing. My first event of the season at Thoresby didn't start off how I wanted it to. He was incredibly fresh and a bit naughty in the dressage arena, so we put him away back in the box and decided to reroute up to Burnham Market, which actually was really, really a good thing because I went there last year with him, and then we went on to Cirencester Park and then up to Chatsworth, and so I followed exactly the same route this year as I did last year with Royal Harvest. You know, the difference from last year to this year has been quite a big one in terms of his, I suppose, bravery and desire cross country, especially. The dressage is still a bit of work in progress, as it always is. And he's such a good jumping horse that, you know, he rarely has a pole. I mean, he did have a pole at Cirencester Park this year and at Chatsworth, but both were coming out of knee-deep mud. So
I was going to say Chatsworth doesn't count because you had to jump a good 2 foot higher than you thought you did. And one pole was basically like, you know, winning a jump.
Yeah, he was super though, and he was so unlucky because he just hit the back rail of the treble, the second last fence. And he just simply because he got stuck in the mud and didn't quite make the last spread. I'm not too worried about that. It was more really the way of going that I was super happy with at Chatsworth, leading forward to go to Bramham off how well he went there really gave me the confidence to go back and tackle, as you said, a decent. It's always massive at Bramham, but you know what to expect with Bramham. And at Chatsworth, it's Ian Stark, it's big, it's bold, but it's there and it's in front of you and it's to be jumped. And I think that really does set you up in a good way then to be going, right, am I ready to be moving up to the next level, which is obviously 5-star, which is on the plan for Burghley this year for us.
So exciting. It feels like actually Burghley is creeping up around the corner, listeners, and it's going to be here before we know it. We'll talk about it in a bit more detail in a minute. That the road to 5-star is a tough old journey to 5-star. Sometimes it can feel quite straightforward, but actually getting to 5-star, staying to 5-star and a string of horses at that level is tough. What for you started out your career in eventing? Where did your love of horses come from?
Well, I grew up on a farm. My parents farmers, and we had a DIY livery at home. Mum still does, actually. So I grew up through the pony club and had great friends. Did tetrathlons, did all the pony club stuff, and had a ball with that, really. So, but still, I really didn't get into eventing properly really until I left school. I went to Millfield. I didn't ride at Millfield. I rode for them, but I didn't ride at Millfield. And then I left Millfield and spent a bit of time with my great friend Harry Mead and his father Richard, which was a great insight to be having, some experience of great Richard Mead and understanding the sport a bit better. And then I then went off to the Funnels, which was just an unbelievable experience. I was there when Pip won her Grand Slam in 2003. So, I mean, I was there you just to be in that environment and understanding and quite what went into it behind the scenes was an honour and a privilege, quite frankly, and something I'm hugely grateful for always to have that opportunity to have done that with them. And Pip's an incredible rider, and I admire her hugely, and still are good friends today. And I'll pick her brains if I'm out eventing. Still, obviously,
it's hard to believe that actually it's 20 years this year that Pippa won the Grand Slam, which obviously was at Burghley, and it feels like it at the time it took off in the press. I think more than we'd ever really seen eventing it, certainly around the time. It was a huge, huge deal. But actually, I don't think any of us particularly realised how iconic the moment was going to become in sort of eventing history. Being on the inside during that kind of golden year and the sort of the build up to the finale at Burghley, what was it like? Because, I mean, that is top level eventing pressure at its absolute utmost, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, massive. I'm just, having some more appreciation now, being a rider at that level, and for Pip to have done what she did then was just colossal, isn't it? And she had Zany Tanswell running the show as her head girl back then, and a great team of people underneath Zany, and it was run immaculately, the whole show. The attention to detail to everything was second to none, and the horses just unbelievable. You had Primrose Pride and Supreme Rock, but just got to ride them both and gallop them both, and they were just machines. I mean, unbelievable horses. I guess, Pip just went off to Burghley and was like, "I'll go and win Burghley," and brilliant, job done.
As you do.
But I think she was just right. She was just riding at such her peak, I suppose, back then, and with those horses, that it just seemed that she just literally won everything. So I suppose, in a way, when we were in that, it was almost quite ridiculous, but we almost expected her to go and win the Grand Slam, because why wouldn't she? And I mean, she did. But when you look back at it, you think, well, that was just such an amazing feat, really.
What was it that when you'd obviously spent the year at Pippa's with William as well, and did some work in the jumping yard and kind of got that bit of experience too. So what was it that actually kind of made you think, I want to be an event rider? The 5 stars, the championships, what drove you? Because it's a hard life.
Yeah, it's mad, really. I don't know. It certainly gave me a real grounding at being at Pips and Williams' yard to see what really was involved behind the scenes, and it is a huge amount of hard work and sacrifice, and you really have to love it and want to do it. And I think ultimately, I think I do love it, and I got the bug for it, and I think just that ability to keep improving and wanting to get better and the desire to do better, and then having opportunities arise and going for it and going, well, okay, I've done okay here, I want to do better next time. And I think that just ultimately kept on nudging me forward and wanting to do better and striving to do better. And it's taken a long time, and it's not easy, especially how much eventing horses cost to buy, let alone run, and having the team behind you and the support and the owners. And I think I've just got a lot of joy of having the horses that I've had, not necessarily always been well beaters, but trying to get the most from that individual horse. It might not be that it goes and wins the competition, but you feel that you've got the maximum performance out of that horse at that given time at that event. Does give you an enormous amount of satisfaction, I think.
I think that's a really good point. And I think that's, you've got to love the process to get to the end goal, because the process is long at times. Yeah. Your 10th birthday present ended up being quite an instrumental present in your life, didn't it?
Yeah, hugely. Yeah, it's a horse called Lottie. Her show name is Surprise Opposition, and she was given to me by my godfather, Johnny Johnston, and Debbie Johnston, who's John's late wife. And John's my godfather, and has always looked out for me, and bless him, given me opportunities to ride his horses latterly from after Lottie. But Lottie was an amazing gift to me, and gave me really the first taste of any international experience. I took her to the Funnels, and Pippa, I don't know how on earth she did it. I can trot a circle, let alone go down the centre line in a 3-star at Blenheim or something. But she did manage to get us there, and just like I say, gave me that snowball effect of wanting to go and do more and more. And sadly, Lots was very pigeon-toed and wasn't the easiest to keep sound and trot up on the third day at 3-day, but it gave me that taste and gave me an opportunity on the horse that I wouldn't have been able to go out and buy, or my parents go out and buy me a potential 3-star horse at the time, 4-star now. We did a probably mediocre, very average test, no doubt, but we jumped clear around Blenheim cross country, which I got so excited about. William Funnell came up that night on the Saturday, and I got far too drunk with Will and ended up partying all night. I think it was in Emily Baldwin's lorry at the time. And then Pippa dragged me out of bed at 5 a.m, screaming at me because I had overslept my alarm to go and check on my horse. And then I proceeded to go and get eliminated in my show jumping because I couldn't see a stride for Toffee because I was clearly very hungover and overdid it the night before. So we laugh about it now, but God, I did get a bollocking, and I did learn from that.
I was going to say,
I'm up now on the Sunday morning at 5 to go and trot my horse up and make sure everything's okay.
I was going to say, that's the kind of thing, everybody says it's like missing a show jump, something like that. You only do it once. Well, that I bet you would only do it once. Show jumpers are obviously a much hardier breed in terms of well-trained in kind of managing to battle the hangover / juggle the partying and the jumping itself. Pretty cool though. I mean, she was only a foal when she was given to you, is that right? So
yeah,
she was
that's right.
So you got a foal for your 10th birthday present from your godfather, which quite frankly I think smashes all of the other birthday presents out of the water.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah.
Freestyle. I mean, that is a really, really cool achievement. From there, your first 5-star, take us back to 2000 was it 2005, your first 5-star?
Yeah, 2005, I was 22. So, yeah, I had the opportunity after leaving the Funnels. Richard Ames gave me an opportunity to come and run his yard and ride his horses up in Suffolk, in Bury St Edmunds, which obviously I jumped up there as soon as I could, and took that opportunity with two hands. And it was a fantastic. Yeah, I had a string of, I don't remember, 5 or 6 horses at the time. Other than riding my own horses before, I hadn't really had much experience riding for other people, particularly. Like I said, I've ridden for John, my godfather, as well. So I'd ridden quite a few youngsters and stuff like that and produced babies. But, to have a shot at having some higher level horses with Richard, the top horse at the time was a horse called Upward Trend. He's a big, grey, beautiful horse, quite huntery, but was a very good jumper, and not bad on he was difficult on the flat, but I had help with John Byrne at the time up in Suffolk with the flat work, and he was a good cross country horse. So we in 2002 went to Bramham, the under 25 class there, and we came second there. And so we felt that it was a good idea to go and give Burghley a good go in 2005. So that was my first 5-star. It didn't end well. I fell off, and but it's all part of the big picture of going and just having that experience, leaving the start box, having that huge adrenaline and desire that I want to come back here again, and I want to do it better. I want to complete, on do well, and that took a long time for that opportunity to come back round, to be honest. And you just it's you've got to really enjoy the times when you have these opportunities up at these big events, because unless you've got a string of them, and quite frankly that's not loads of us who are in that position, unfortunately, if you've only got one horse up at that level, that one horse can go wrong so easily, and then you're right back down at the bottom, and you've got to start and produce horses from 4 or whatever, 5, for another 5, 6, 7, 8 years to get back at that point. And I think that's tough.
Do you think that 5-star, 4-star as it was then, debut in 2005, do you think actually that was instrumental in kind of keeping you going through those kind of hard years that followed, and that actually 100%. Even that it could have been very different?
100%. It really is. It's a tough journey to be on if it's what you really want to do, and there are lots of highs and lows, and more lows than there are highs, and you have to be really resilient and be very determined to really keep that focus of the bigger picture, I think, because it's very easy to be swallowed up and go, oh God, I've got nothing, and how on earth am I going to get back there? And my best mate Harry's up there and got 5 horses up at 5-star and whatever, and it's just like, where's your opportunity? Where's it going to come from? Am I good enough? All these things that go through your mind constantly, and disappointments if you get lame horses or whatever it might be. I think the key thing is to, I think if you've got a burning desire to do that, I think ultimately you will overcome those pitfalls. But it certainly isn't an easy one, and no one finds it easy. It's we're all in the same boat with that. So I think it just shows how top level event riders they're pretty hardcore and they're pretty resilient, because you have to be.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Hardcore and resilient kind of actually sums it up pretty well. Going from 2005, it was 11 years after that you were then next at 5-star. But before that, actually, it got even tougher, because the kind of the resilience and the hard work were tested even more, because in 2015 you had a pretty nasty fall which actually put you on the sidelines for 6 months. Did you at that point go, do I really want to do this?
Yeah, it's a funny one. No, I didn't actually, funnily enough. That was not a nice fall. That was just around a 100 or even a 90, I can't remember, but at Rackham. And it's coming out of wood, and I was on a young horse, and he left a leg, and we had a rotational, and luckily he didn't land directly on me, but I put my hands out to break my fall, and I felt my hand go in a different direction, so I didn't even look at my wrist. That was pretty messed up. And then Chips, is the name of the horse, kind of landed and then rolled on top of me, and then kind of felt like he just stayed on top of me with his legs in the air for about 10 minutes, which, I mean, I was wearing an air jacket at the time, I think, thankfully, because it did lacerate my liver, and that was really, really painful. And so I was airlifted to Brighton, and I spent 5 days, I think it was, in ICU there, and they were incredible. And then I was shipped off to Southampton, where I spent another 10 days in hospital before I got released. But I didn't get put off by it at all. And I never worried about getting back on a horse or happening again. I think you have to kind of realise that these things can happen. You know, we put ourselves at risk all the time when we get on the back of a horse. I think what I'm better at doing now is calculating risk far better than I used to be back then. Knowing your youngsters or knowing your horse at whatever level you're at is super important. And yes, accidents can happen. Of course they can happen. But I think looking back at that time and that actual accident, you know, we all just have to be, you know, strive to ride better and understand better our horses, to then hopefully, you know, prevent sometimes these things from happening. So moving forward from that, you know, I think it gave me more incentive to become a better rider and understand better how to avoid, hopefully, those kind of situations in the future. But, you know, whether it happens or not, who knows? But
all you can do is mitigate the risk. And it's really interesting wearing an air jacket, because actually back in 2015, actually nowadays, 2023, everybody pretty much, 90% of people at an event would wear an air jacket. But I don't imagine then it was as sort of as it is now.
I think my mother probably made me get one.
Good mum. There you go.
You know, ironically, I now don't wear them.
Oh, okay.
So,
why not? Can I ask why?
So the reason why I don't wear them now is because in that situation, or if you're having a fall at high speed with having the air jacket on, I think it can actually prevent you from sometimes being able to roll away and get away from that situation. And I think over the years where I've been able to fall off so many times, I've got relatively good at it. And so I can try and get myself out of the way as much as possible and not be in a position where I get, you know, bang, stop, and then get in a position of getting in trouble with the horse, then clattering over after you.
It's funny, isn't it? In racing, you know, people are taught how to fall. And it's almost a thing that you're taught how to fall as safely as possible. And actually that's not something, certainly, that...
No, and I think that's something that really should be taught, actually. Knowing when to go, do you know what? This is not recoverable. I need to exit at exactly the right moment to give myself the best possible chance of getting out of the way and not getting injured or badly injured. Is something that, like you say, the racing guys, they do a hell of a lot of in training, not on horse, I think on the simulators and stuff like that, which we don't get taught. And I think it's just through experience. I've ridden so many young horses in my time and fallen off so many times that I kind of get sense or know if I can get out of the way, or I will, or let go and get out of the way. Because it quite often is when you're trying to hang on, trying to recover it, and it gets
there's
worse.
no return. Past the point of any return. And actually, listeners, go and practice in training. You don't need to go and fall off lots to practice the skill. That obviously is, can work, but not advisable. So the kind of the wait for 5-star back in 2016, I feel like I'm kind of touching on the tough times, because I feel like we're hopefully coming into a really, really positive part of your career with lots of horses coming up through the levels, but also a couple at the very, very top level. And I just think it's a really important thing to pick upon, because actually eventing, yes, we all know it's a tough sport, but I think people can take it for granted, or they think that they're the only ones maybe, striving to achieve their goals or whatever it may be. The moment you went back to Burghley in 2016, what was that feeling like?
Oh, it was amazing. It was just incredible. And at the time I had the horse Xavier, owned by the Devon Hardings, who are long-term supporters and owners of mine, and lovely people. And really, really, it was a massive sense of achievement, actually, to even get back to 5-star. Just to go and be back there, give it a go. I had a lot of training at the time with Lizzie Murray, who was fantastic at Catherston, and he went and actually smashed out an incredibly good dressage test for him and for myself back then, which again just was on a completely different level of understanding and being able to ride, I suppose, back in 2016 compared to my first experience in 2005. And I think that, I can't remember, was it 2016? I had a run out quite late on Zav in the Trout Hatchery, I think. But he had gone really well cross country, and we completed, the cross country, and we made it home. And I think that really gave me a massive boost. Although obviously I was probably disappointed at the time that I didn't go clear or whatever. I think just to get back there, be competing in arguably probably the biggest and best event in the world, it was a huge thrill, and that is what we want to do. That's why I do it. I want to be competing on the world stage, and I want to be being successful at that level. And it's taken me a long, long time to be in a position where hopefully I'm going to Burghley in 2023 with Royal Harvest. Again, far more established than I was in 2016 again. And it's been a lot of hard work, and it's been a lot of support from lots of people, and not for just myself that I want to go well. I want to go well for all those people that have put a lot of time and effort and support into me.
I think it's important that actually, when you get to these kind of milestones, and we're talking a good few weeks out from the event, and I'm touching all the wood because I don't want to be responsible for jinxing anything, listeners. But actually, that you do kind of take a step back. So you can get so caught up in the day-to-day build-up that actually you do take a step back and go, look at what we've achieved. This is incredible.
I think it's really important to keep perspective on that, because whichever way you look at it, it's not a level, fair playing field. Everyone has different paths to get to that pinnacle of trying to compete up at Burghley, Babington, whatever it is. And I think, for me, Royal Harvest came to me as a 4-year-old. He's now 12. He came to me because he was napping and they couldn't ride it out the yard. So if you take a look at that perspective, it's a miracle the horse is going to a 5-star, let alone to think, actually, I want to go and do well there. Of course I want to go and do well there. But I think it's just being realistic about the expectation and what does that look like, when you go to Burghley. I know what my goal and what I want to try and achieve, where that might end us up, may place us on the Sunday. Who knows? That's down to other people, how they all go and all the rest of it. You can only be focused on you and your horse and what that looks like and what expectation you have for that horse at this time, going into this event where he is now.
So going back to Royal Harvest then, because he's 12 now, he's been top 10 at both Blenheim last year and Bramham this year. I saw him at Bramham this year and he looked phenomenal, particularly in the cross country, clear inside the time. I think 4 horses ended up finishing on their dressage score, and it was a tough Bramham as well. He's a former winner of the 3-star long format at Hartbury. But at what point from that nappy 4-year-old did you go, actually, this is a horse that has the ingredients?
At Hartbury 3-star long, it took me a long time to get this horse. He was nappy. That's why he got sent to me. He's sharp. He would be spooky. He'd be a bit backward cross country. So Sarah Houston and Jonathan Houston, who own Royal Harvest, amazing owners and very supportive. And what Sarah's never done is pushed me or rushed me or done anything to say, come on, get on with it. You're taking too long, So we really have given him every opportunity and the time to get his confidence to be in a position where you can then go and tackle the biggest fences in the world. And they are enormous, and you've got to have a confident horse, and you've got to have a horse that wants to do it, because quite frankly, they're too big not to, they've got to want to jump these big fences. And I think Hartbury 3-star long is a really decent track. It's big and it's bold. It's Eric Winter. And I think it really there is a very good marker if a horse is going to go on in the future, if they're going well at 3-star long at Hartbury. And I think we had miles to go even back at Hartbury, even though he won at Hartbury. He won through his speed and through his jumping ability. And the dressage was a 31. Quite frankly, he was lucky to win it then on that score. But as you go up these levels and go to the likes of Burghley, actually your cross country and your speed and your show jumping becomes so much more important than just that dressage. And at that stage, I really felt that this was an opportunity with this horse that, if we really got our heads down and worked blinking hard, that potentially he would be the one which hopefully get me back up to this 5-star level and give me a shot at trying to, be my shot window, be able to show what we are capable of doing, albeit, you don't get to show it very often because you haven't got 6-10 horses up at that level doing it day in, day out. So it's just biding your time. And I think with him, I've got real belief in him. And even from Hartbury, that next season, last year, we took a bit of a hit and not a step down. We were competing at 4-star short and then went to Bramham 4-star long. But he was really green moving up to that level. And we had some run-outs and Bramham didn't go to plan. I had two run-outs at Bramham as well. He was quick still and actually did jump all the meaty stuff and he finished. I've run out, I think it was the 4th fence at Bramham last year. And then I ran out halfway around again. But what I was never prepared to do is put up my hand and go, oh, it hasn't happened today. Because the horse needed educating around that course last year to be in a position where we are this year. And I think that's a really important thing that sometimes not necessarily all riders do. I understand, they're very precious and they're very expensive horses and you don't want to risk them unnecessarily, of course. But I think there is a degree that, well, for me, I want to take the hard route. I don't want to take an easy route, producing a horse to the big stage, because you're always going to get found out later on if you cut corners on the way up. And I think for me, that hard period, I suppose, last year in the spring, having 2 run-outs at Burnham Market, having a run out at Cirencester, having 2 run outs at Bramham, ultimately has taught me and the horse so much more than not having those experiences. In getting help from Dickie Waygood with the cross country, and then last year from Hartbury 4-star short till now, every run Royal Harvest has had, he's been clear across the country and feeling much more confident, and I'm feeling much more confident about how to go about trying to achieve those clear rounds.
It's interesting because I remember watching him win Hartbury, and you're completely right. Hartbury 3-star long is a tough 3-star long, and we see some really, really smart horses come through it, and it's always a bit of a marker. And it felt like, I think I'm right in saying, actually, it was your first international victory as well. Is that right? I mean, it was an enormous weekend for you. Yeah. And actually then kind of seeing him step up to 4-star, it didn't all go to plan, and it wasn't all smooth sailing, but actually watching that progression and then seeing him come back to Bramham this year, he has grown up so much, but actually looks like all of that education absolutely has come through. And you're right, sometimes there is the day to put your hand up, but other days is the day to go and have a lesson. And I think we can all be a little bit obsessed with the kind of the perfect record, and we can be on this podcast and go, oh, well, they had 20 penalties there and they had a couple of run-outs there, and they retired cross country there and all the rest of it. But ultimately, you have to look at the bigger picture, as you say. That's obviously a bigger picture that is coming together quite nicely. What's he like as a person? Because he's obviously a real jumping machine. I feel like Burghley is brilliant for him. He's been brilliant around Bramham, which is obviously a good indicator for a Burghley horse, but that kind of jumping influence is going to come to the fore. What's he like as a horse to have about at home now?
Yeah, he's just such a lovely, lovely person. He's incredibly intelligent, and he's very soft and kind of soppy. He's, you could chuck Sky, my 5-year-old, on his back. In fact, I have plenty of times, and he wouldn't even blink an eye. And I think he's just really grown into him. So he knows he's quite important these days. I think he quite likes that. Quite likes loves the attention the girls give him. And Poppy, my kind of head groom, she adores him and fusses over him, and he's just a lovely, lovely horse, and I have such a great partnership and relationship with him, which is vital because, you're in this together. There's 2 brains going on, but you've got to think as one. And ultimately, you put your life into these horses' hands, going around these very testing, difficult tracks. And they also need to put their lives in your hands as well. So we're both equally responsible for one another. And I think that connection between horse and rider when you're competing up at that level is really, truly quite special. And I've got a very, very deep bond with Bassett, which is his stable name. Bassett, yeah.
That's a good stable name. Love a stable name. Okay, it obviously is a huge partnership, but it's a team effort as well, particularly over hot times that have been pretty hard. Your wife, Sarah, you've got 3 lovely kids as well, plus the entire team that keeps kind of the show on the road. Talk to us a bit about the setup and how the family side of things balances with what is, a tough career at times, and there have been some harder times.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm very, very lucky with all the girls who work for me now and in the past. It is, like you say, it's full on. It's 24/7, 7 days a week. There is no let up, and everyone has to be aiming for that same goal and pushing in the same direction. And like say with Sarah as well, being behind the scenes, and she also helps on, with a lot of the running of the yard when she can. We've got Olivia who's 10, Jack who's 7, and Sky who's 5. School, clubs, you name it. it really is full on. And away from that, we have Sarah's parents who live locally, and my mum lives locally as well. My sister and brother-in-law also live locally. So I think the network of support around us as well is massive, and we're very fortunate with that. Because a lot of the weekends are taken up with me not here, not being present to go and do normal daddy things on the weekend or whatever, or going away on holiday for a couple of weeks in the summer and being excited about doing stuff like that. And when everything's going well, that's all fine. But when things are trying and testing, and it's those things as you, I think, progress through life and have kids and are married, and it changes from the days of, well, it was just me and, I can do whatever I please, and it doesn't matter if I'm out competing every weekend or, because that's what I want to do. I think it has a much greater impact now than ever before. And they are incredibly supportive and very much behind me, which enables me to try and keep pursuing my goals and ambitions and my dreams. And I think I'm incredibly grateful for everyone involved in my team, Sarah, my wife, and my children, and everyone, because it's a huge commitment, not from just me, but from everyone as well.
Do you think it adds a perspective as well, that actually, you can have had a tough day out on the yard, but you come in and you kind of have the normalcy of kids? And
100%. I think you've got to get a balance on it. And I think you've got to have perspective. And I think you've got to be, we live 5 minutes away from Clarendon, which is where the yard is. And I think for me to be able to come away from the yard and come into a family environment, which is mad, by the way, with 3 kids and chaos, but a lot of fun as well. And I think it just does put it in perspective. Sometimes you have bad days, but really, what does it matter? Your kids are healthy, and there will be another day, and the horses aren't the be all and end all. They're obviously very, very important, and you want to succeed and do as well as you can. But I think it's important. You're probably more likely to go and do well and have more success if you get more of a balance with everything, I think.
I think that's exactly right. And to be honest, we just before recording this podcast, you had been off taking your 2 eldest to after school swimming, which I think that's not quite escape. That's kind of chaos of a whole different level, which I understand all too well at the moment. Anyway, so back to the next few weeks and couple of months building back up to Burghley with Royal Harvest with Bassett. What does the next few weeks look like for you and the team?
So a lot of training. I train with Lisa White on the flat. So Lisa was with me this morning at home at Clarendon, and she's very much helping me enormously on the flat work and developing my understanding about that, and she's helping me with transitioning her knowledge onto Bassett and me as well. So she's helping with some of the ridden work, and we're trying to integrate that with what I feel and what she feels, not just sees. And I think it's such a huge quality to have for her as a coach to me, to be able to get on him and feel and make some corrections or give him the confidence to feel what we're trying to achieve. And she's a Grand Prix dressage rider, and I think the hunger and desire to do better has to be the hard work done at home. And that's something that I think the last 2 years I've really tried very hard to implement and put the hard graft in at home, which is not easy, getting better at dressage. it's far easier at show jumping or cross country, because probably I just naturally enjoy those more than the dressage. But to really succeed, as we all know, you have to be good at every phase. So there's a lot of training going on the flat. I'm going down to see William Fox-Pitt on Wednesday. He's going to give me a jump with Bassett down at his. So he's going to help me a little bit leading up to Burghley, and as he has done with previous Xavier, he helped me before I went to 5-star with him a bit. Dickie Waygood has helped me in the last year a lot as well. I mean, not a lot as in going there a lot, but, you know, walking a course or having a chat on the phone or the odd cross-country lesson or going up to his and understanding his methods and his way of training has really been a great help to me as well. So all of those things combined, and then of course his fast work as well, which is quite a lot leading up to Burghley. I want to make sure I have him incredibly fit, and physically I want to have him in as good a shape as possible as well, and mentally. So that all plays a big part into trying to get Bassett to Burghley in the best physical, mental state, and for me to be as prepared as possible as his rider with the training leading up to that. So we've got Aston OI this Sunday coming up. He hasn't run since Bramham, and then he's going to go to the Open Championships at Gatcombe, and then hopefully that'll be him ready to go to Burghley. So that's kind of, as a nutshell, what it's looking like leading up the next 7 weeks, whatever it is, 6 weeks.
It sounds quite easy when you say it like that, doesn't it? It all sounds quite straightforward, and fingers crossed, fingers crossed for a smooth and easy preparation. One of the exciting things in your team at the minute is obviously you've got Royal Harvest kind of at the top of the tree, but you've got some really, really nice young horses coming through. Including a horse that I have to admit has really caught my eye, having just stepped up to advanced and 4-star this year. Damage Van Berkenbroek Danny, he's known. He looks to be super cool. And again, not the easiest, but hopefully all of the ingredients.
Yeah, I think exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. He is not the easiest, but he has got a lot about him. He's got an incredible jump, and he's incredibly bold. And actually, Lisa is working with me on the flat with Danny as well when she comes to the yard. So we're really trying to work hard with him on the flat work as well. And he'll be aiming to go to Blenheim 8 and 9-year-olds in September. You know, he's only really just stepped up to this 4-star level. His first advance was at Chatsworth, and the reason why I took him there for his first advance was because I felt that he would suit the bigger, meatier, but straight in front of you kind of course, and it really did suit him, and he went phenomenally well, and I think that really gave me the confidence and belief that he was ready to step up to this level. And then I took him to Bramham. I mean, the dressage is not there. We've got a lot of work to do. He's a 9-year-old. So, you know, but again, going back to what I feel about producing horses with the bigger picture in mind, is that by taking him to Chatsworth this year, to taking him to Bramham, to, you know, he's going to do the intermediate championships at Gatcombe. He'll go to Blenheim in September. He's nowhere near the finished article whatsoever, but I think it's gaining him this exposure to these bigger events and jumping these courses and going in these atmospheres, which is going to help build the picture leading forward into the next few seasons for him. And I'm super excited about him. I think he's a very, very capable horse. He's very different to Royal Harvest cross country. He's quite strong, and so I waste time a bit on him trying to over set up, and sort of being able to just keep coming and galloping to the fences as easily as I do with Royal Harvest. But I think it will all come, and ultimately, I think he's got the right brain, and like I say, he wants to do it, which is the main thing.
they've got to want to do it, especially when they get higher up the levels, any level. But ultimately, they have to have a love for the job as well. And what about the future? What is it that you would like to see in the next 10 years or so?
Well, I'm 40 now, and so, you know, I'm throwing everything at it that I can possibly to achieve some big things. I suppose, you know, I would like to be in a position where I can attract, you know, more owners and quality young horses. Not just young horses. If there's opportunities to take further up the level horses as well, then obviously that I'm really keen to push as hard as I can, you know, for this next stage of my career. And, you know, that's not possible without horses and without owners. And so obviously I'm always open for new flesh and blood to be coming to our yard.
Some really, really exciting times ahead, some exciting weeks ahead as well. Gubby, thank you so much for coming on the show. It has been absolutely fascinating to have you on. And it's a really, I think, an inspirational story, because eventing is tough and life can be tough. And actually, if you follow your dreams and you keep plugging away, they'll come. And I hope
hopefully
plenty of people listening to this that will really, really resonate with it. So thank you for sharing.
Well, I think it's important for everyone to know, you know, and people who want to get to the top and are starting their journeys, just to, you know, keep following that dream and that ambition, but know that it's not an easy, straightforward path. And I'm sure people do know that, but you know, it's definitely worth it if you can persevere and hopefully achieve the goals that you want to get to.
I absolutely am sure that yours are going to start to really come together as well. Plenty of them have come together over the years, but actually lots more still to look forward to. And Burghley in particular is a big one. There was a real smile on his face, listeners. Honestly, Gubby, you lit up like Christmas when we were talking about Burghley, because it really does mean so much. And look, good luck, enjoy it, and I'm sure there will be a whole army of podcast fans behind you cheering you on as well.
Thank you, Nicole.
Listeners, I hope you've enjoyed that show as much as I have. A really, really fascinating insight into life as a top-level event rider. And Gubby, we will be following your journey to Burghley and beyond. Listeners, lots more to look forward to on the show. And the countdown to Burghley feels like it is really coming on. Entries are open. We've got a very special Inside Burghley podcast series coming your way very soon with some very cool guests. I'm going to say no more for now, but watch this space. And we'll be back very soon with more on the Echo Ratings Eventing podcast. Thanks for listening. This episode of the Echo Ratings Eventing podcast is supported by our friends at Fairfax and Favour. And we wanted to tell you a little bit more about their extraordinary story. It was a story that began back in 2012 when two friends made a rather ambitious pact to combine their middle names and launch their very own footwear brand. They were actually funded by shifts at the local pub, and they then took a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Spain to find a factory that would produce luxury goods that would help kickstart the dream. From storing their precious new wares in a loft, launching on the show circuit and pursuing that dream, the Fairfax and Favour vision has since exploded, and there's a range now that includes bags, clothing, boots and sandals. The luxury shoe giants have an array of awards, including last year a Lloyds Bank Business Excellence Award, and they're passionate about raising money for charity and have already donated over £500,000 to really worthy causes. Their story continues, but for more information, go and visit their website, fairfaxandfavour.com.